So.
What do you mean the real fun starts after this?
Okay, well, the part where I don't have to use quite as many brain cells, and you guys don't have to look at me quite so much. No, but it is, you do have some really interesting stories, and I really loved sitting down and getting to understand a little bit more about what's actually happening at Booking.com. But first, tell us a little bit more about yourself. If I can, tell them what you've been doing over the past few days.
Okay, well, I'll start with your first question.
Okay.
I'm Tigin. I'm a director of technology at Booking.com. I'm an enabler of cloud compute platforms. That's what I do for a living. I have a background in software development, mathematics, cybersecurity, cryptography, and
So pretty much everything. You do it all.
Not everything, just those 5 things. But yeah, well, that's the professional me. Then there's the human me, which is obsessed about scuba diving. They insisted that I talk about this because I actually landed in Boston on Saturday, and on Sunday I went for a dive. I'll be at the party. If you're a diver yourself, find me. I can just talk indefinitely about scuba diving. So that's what I've been doing.
All right, awesome. So let's dive a little bit more into maybe your role, and what does kind of the day-to-day look like for you, and what is it all about?
Every day is different, I think. Well, as I said, I'm a director of technology. I think my job is really to direct. Like, all I do is we're going that way, and have to bring people along. So that's pretty much my job. It's full of meetings, as you might imagine. Given the season, given the month that we are, this is the annual planning season, along with which comes the the longer-term strategy refresh. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just busy with that these days.
Okay, so maybe let's look into that a little bit. You're just setting your strategy. How are you defining your tech priorities this year, and what are you doing?
Well, let's give a bit of context about Booking.com first.
All right, sounds good.
So Booking has been around for nearly 30 years now. Mm-hmm. Started with a Dutch guy on a bicycle with a camera taking pictures of hotels, putting them on his website. Today, I think we're one of the leaders in online travel in the world. So it's kind of grown a lot, and it's grown consistently over time. Most people associate Booking.com with hotels, and yes, we do that, but we actually do a lot more. So to frame our technology, I'm going to refer to something called the Maslow hierarchy of needs. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But if you're not, it's basically a pyramid shape. At the base, you have your physiological needs, like you have to be able to breathe, eat, drink, as we'll all be able to do in about an hour's time. So all you need to do to keep alive. And on top of that, you have your safety and security, which is how can I ensure that I can actually stay alive and well in the foreseeable future. And then the pyramid builds up to the very top where you have self-actualization. So if you think of travel, finding a hotel room, just having a roof over your head, and maybe a horrible breakfast, that's a necessity, but that's only a part of travel. That's only the bottom of the pyramid. And I think travel is really about this whole pyramid. Like I don't think there are many people who think of traveling to amazing locations like maybe Norway, South Africa, Patagonia, and think, oh, I'm going to go there. I'm going to get a hotel room and just stay in the hotel room for 2 weeks.
I certainly hope not.
I hope not either.
I've had some business trips that were a little bit like that, but generally speaking, if I'm looking for something or if I'm using Booking.com, typically it's to find the experiences.
Yeah. So when you go to these places, you really want to be astonished by the beauty of the that glacier. Mm-hmm. You want to go diving with sharks, like I do, probably. You want to go swimming with wild orcas. Like you really after the experiences. Like the hotel is just a base to start exploring from. So what we're doing is our company's mission is to make it easier for everyone to experience the world. Mm-hmm. It's not to sell hotel rooms. It's the entire thing. Like provide people with experiences. So make it easier for people to experience the world.
Nice.
Within that, obviously we are a heavily tech-powered company. Like there's a lot of technology behind all of these experiences. You probably interacted with it yourself if you booked through our web or mobile applications. Like we have yeah, we have these applications. There's a lot of technologies behind that, some of which you've already heard like a million times today. And our tech strategy, so again, just going back in time, when Booking started, when we started scaling up the business, I say we, I wasn't there. I've only been there for 10 years. The only real way of operating was out of a, like on-prem on your bare metal infrastructure. And I think we've actually done amazing things with our legacy bare metal infrastructure. Like it's beyond amazing how it's been able to keep up with the tremendous growth that Booking has seen over the years.
Okay.
But given that, when cloud started becoming a thing, we started asking ourselves, like, why are we amazing at this already solved problem? Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that actually started shaping our tech strategy of going to the cloud, making use of the cloud. And given that we have all this amazing brain power, like this engineering workforce, why do we spend some of it on already solved problems? We could. So we could use all of that brain power in the innovation space. Like we could actually throw more brain power at this, like enabling people to experience the world problem. Mm-hmm. But also to the, which company was that? I think you mentioned Toyota, right?
Yep, Toyota.
Or we could just use all of that to optimization.
Right.
Driving that amazing.
The optimization curve and the growth behind it. So what is driving you to cloud then?
So it's pretty much this, just making infrastructure management somebody else's problem. That's one aspect of it. Okay. Like there's companies out there like Amazon who actually make it their business to do that for us. Yeah. It's not our differentiator, right? It's, so there's that, which is one aspect of it. And the second is I mentioned a bare metal infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And not every workload is suitable to be hosted by, or well, everything can be hosted by bare metal, but bare metal is not the best option for all of those things. Right. Like there's virtualization, there's containerization, there's functions, there's all these layers of abstraction. And depending on which one is the right for which workload, we actually want the right-sized host for the decoupled workloads. Right. Not only that, we also want to encourage our developer community to think in functions, think in microservices. Mm-hmm. And we do have a massive Perl monolith for historical reasons. Mm-hmm. We want to encourage our developer community to actually start, re-architecting that, breaking that down into microservices. Decoupling some of that. Exactly.
So how are you then kind of moving into this cloud world, and how are you working with your cloud provider to be able to do that?
We usually move into things very fast and then learn through experience, like most of our experiences. So it's something I forgot to mention in the beginning, I wanted to say. The title of the talk says Lessons from Booking.com. And since I mentioned lessons and failures and everything, I thought that would be worth a mention. This is not Booking.com coming to lecture you. This is more about lessons from and for Booking.com. Like some of the learnings that we've gathered throughout the years from reflecting on past failures, painful experiences, and everything. So this is us sharing. This is me sharing like some of the lessons that I learned throughout my 10 years at Booking.
Oh, that's great.
So as we started going to the cloud, I think it was quite chaotic. Mm-hmm. In the beginning. I don't know if you folks watch any of Armon's videos, but there's one which is really short. It's about 15 minutes long, where he talks about platform engineering and what it does, and different phases of moving to the cloud. Right. So we've gone through those phases. We went like the first phase is YOLO, right? You just everybody does their own thing. Then you try to standardize, like you set up these cloud enablement, these platform engineering teams. Right. And then the pendulum swings to the other side. You overdo it, you over-standardize, and then your developer workforce is really unhappy, and then you go back and forth and try to normalize in the middle.
It's a little bit of a pendulum that goes from one side to another. Yeah. Flexibility versus constraints.
Yes.
So then that's something that you've experienced as well within your organization?
There's something we've experienced that when I was watching Armon's video, I thought, oh, okay, it's not only us.
No, I can guarantee that it's not only you. It's something we definitely see within the greater ecosystem. So how are you doing on that journey and on that migration journey?
I think we're going much slower than I would have expected, to be honest. But with that comes a lot of learnings. Mm-hmm. So we have I think from what I heard today, like most companies have this platform engineering versus app development, like this creative tension. And we also have, we're still trying to find the sweet spot. Like if you take the 30-year-old monolith and just try to perfectly re-architect it and then move to the cloud, it's going to take, like, I'm going to be retired by then, maybe even dead. So it's going to take very long. Whereas if you lift and shift, it's fast, but it's kind of pointless.
It can be really costly. It doesn't necessarily run the way you want it to.
You get all the costs and none of the benefits of the cloud, basically.
Exactly.
You're going to the cloud for the sake of it. So we're right now trying to figure out where that sweet spot is, where you're going fast enough but also right enough. And that's kind of driving what my team's 3-year, 5-year strategy is. So we're trying to build, this is a term that I've heard many times and in different shapes today, golden paths, golden patterns, blueprints, IDP, whatever you want to call it. That's something that we're trying to do so that going to the cloud the right way is also the easy way to manage your application.
I think that's a great way of looking at it. It's not an easy path, but hopefully it's a rewarding one.
Easy to say this in front of a group of 50 people. It's much, much harder to actually do in real life.
No, exactly. So then how are you setting your priorities this year, and what are your priorities for the year?
Well, pretty much what I said, like finding that sweet spot, helping, like connecting with developers, with the developer community, just making sure that we're hearing their needs as well as we're articulating the goodness of what we're trying to push towards them. These golden paths, greater cloud adoption, and if I may summarize our strategy, as I see it, it's moving up the stack and sideways into somebody else's infrastructure.
Okay, I like that. That's a nice visual. It gives you a nice way of, making it a little bit more tangible than just lots of words and
I mean, just a visual that goes this way and this way.
I like it. So talk to us a little bit about your organizational structure, because you do have a varied organizational structure, and really about, like, how do your teams work and how do your teams work with technology?
The organization structure has changed quite a lot since I joined. So I joined around the time when I think Booking was still in denial about not being a startup anymore. So we had a lot of these startup habits, but not the size of a startup. So there were ways of working where, I mean, you would not write documentation. You knew who was the puppet person. You knew who was the, like, whatever person. You just asked that person. Yeah. Except one day, you had so many people that you no longer knew, right? So I've seen a lot of change in not our company values, but how those values started to manifest with the size of the organization as it grew. And I think it's probably grown several times since I joined.
So how many developers do you have currently?
Good question. In the thousands. I don't know how many thousand, but in the thousands.
Okay. So we're not talking about, from a human perspective, there's just no way you can know everyone.
No. Even 10 years ago when I joined, like we filled up an entire building. Yeah. And we've grown several times since then. Yeah. And in that environment, I think the way that like decisions were being made was I would say extremely bottom up. Okay. Like it's just a room full of, or a floor full of developers and engineers. Somebody runs into a problem for the first time. That person becomes the owner of that thing, and that person makes the decisions. Like he works when you're maybe 50 people. But when you're 500 people, it's now 10 people who are all solving the problem in their own way. When you're 5,000, it's 100 people. Yeah. So that's why I think over the 10 years that I've been there, I've seen a lot of structure brought into place, a better mix, I think, of top-down and bottom-up decision-making, which I think is always a fascinating dynamic. Okay. So we organize ourselves around, like we have our tech strategy, we have our company goals and everything. Right. So we organize around capabilities that allow us to deliver those objectives. Okay. We have business units, groups of developers who write applications for customers, for instance. We have a central tech organization. Within that, we have the group that I'm a part of, Core Platforms. We have security, which I was a part of for the first five years of my time at Booking. We have data and machine learning. We have other groups like tech standards. Tech standards is a relatively new group as well. Okay. And we form small engineering teams. I think somebody mentioned 2 pizza teams. Like we have like 3 to 8 developers or engineers in a team.
All right, so you keep the teams relatively small. What are some of the benefits to keeping them that small?
Again, I think it was the same person. So I've seen so many talks that I can't remember who it was. Referred to one of the different models of working, like the collaboration X as a service. Mm-hmm. With collaboration comes an overhead. Like every two people every pair of people who need to speak to each other, there's an overhead to that. Yeah. When you have 3 people, that's 3 pairs of people. When you have 4 people, that's 6, and it grows like that.
Incrementally, yeah.
So all that overhead grows. I think what I've seen without fail is if a team grows beyond 8 people, mm-hmm. it becomes very, very difficult to get things done, make decisions. I've been in a team where the daily stand-up took 90 minutes.
That's not a stand-up. Okay, yeah, so then, yeah, it makes sense that you're keeping the teams a little bit smaller. And when you're looking at things like tooling, how does that work for you within Booking.com? Because I think this is where we really started getting into the setup and what I think is quite unique about Booking.com. And when you start setting your tech strategy and deciding on what kind of tooling you want to use, you guys have a little bit of a different perspective and a little bit of a different flavor than most organizations.
Yeah, I think when you and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, mm-hmm. One of the questions that I think you or somebody from your team suggested to me was, I don't know the exact, I don't remember the exact wording of it, but it was like it was implying that we have senior leadership who make product, like which product we use for this mm-hmm. problem kind of decisions. And I said, well, that's not what happens.
Exactly.
So I said we try to organize our engineering teams around capabilities that we want to deliver. Mm-hmm. If there's a capability that we have a team for, like secret management, for instance, that team becomes the provider of that capability to the rest of the business. Mm-hmm. If we don't have that, everybody solves the problem on their own. Mm-hmm. So we have like several different ways of solving the same problem, several different tools. And then we set up one and we migrate from all the others to the golden one. Mm-hmm. But what happened with HashiCorp products specifically, secret management was, as far as I remember, in the latter category that I described. Like we were using the free version of Vault. I think there might have been even more than one team. I don't remember. We wrote our own version of Vault, mm-hmm. But ultimately, we just consolidated because we thought, okay, this is a single capability that we need to deliver. We just need to centralize this. Yeah. Whereas with Terraform, it happened differently. We started a data center virtualization journey. We wanted to do immutable infrastructure, golden images, and everything that Armand talked about earlier today. Mm-hmm. And as part of that, we thought, okay, we need infrastructure as code. What do we have? Like Terraform is quite mature, so let's just start using that. So.
That had a little bit more of a centralized function from day one, or?
Yes, but still the decision came from the engineering team. Okay. So I didn't go to the team and say, you're using Terraform. I think what I found is even if I were to do that, and even if the tool was the right thing, that usually doesn't work.
Okay. So the name of your talk is Consolidation in a Democratized Tech Landscape.
Yes.
So can you explain that to us a little bit more?
I can try. So by democratized tech landscape, I mean what I just described, like engineering teams that are empowered to make their own decisions. The fact that I'm speaking here today, the fact that we have we use the paid versions of your products, mm-hmm. Those came from the teams as well. Like we as technology leaders, we set our targets, our cloud adoption targets, our technology modernization targets, mm-hmm. and then teams go, okay, I need Vault then, okay, I need Terraform then. But if I'm using the free versions, I'm limited. Mm-hmm. Hey, director, I need you to spend some money on this. Like, it's great that you're setting these targets for me, but if you want me to actually get there, I need these features and these features.
I need your support. So what are some of the factors that go into actually purchasing a technology then?
There's quite a few. Well, the obvious one is it has to be fit for purpose. Mm-hmm. I think the technology that we're going to start using has to be usable. Again, obviously, like I've actually experimented with some tooling which had really powerful backends, mm-hmm. but the UI was so clunky it was never going to like people were
the adoption was going to be too difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If it is if it's something that we're buying from a company, then we need to be able to trust the company.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we've had instances where we thought we were buying, and we were actually buying an amazing piece of software.
Mm-hmm.
But then one morning the wind blew from the wrong direction and the company crumpled. Like it's happened.
Yeah.
We end up with an amazing technology with no company supporting that because they went bankrupt. Yeah. We'd like to be able to trust the ability of the company to stick around, like have strong financials, a good solid strategy.
Yeah.
And if it's an open source software, then we really want a strong, active community that's actively contributing to it.
Okay.
There's probably more things. Speaking in the context of HashiCorp, I think what I really like in our relationship with you folks is we don't just buy software from you. Mm-hmm. Like yesterday, I had a chat with Armon. I had a meeting with him. I met David a couple of weeks ago in Amsterdam, and every time I have those conversations, it's really intellectually stimulating. I think I always go away from those conversations with maybe one or multiple light bulb moments, and I can actually take back those learnings and apply them to my in my day to day.
Oh, that's great.
And if you would allow me to be slightly naughty, well, we care about cost as well. And that's just
I would hope as a business, I would hope that you do.
That's a devious wink towards your contract renewal people.
Hey, I'm out on the contract renewal, but I will make sure we pass it forward. So when you're looking at technology partners and you're partnering with some of these technology partners, because you do have a complex system, it's not something where we can just hand you something, you deploy it, and everybody all of a sudden starts using it. What are some of the key factors that are important for you in leveraging your vendors and your suppliers, and to whatever extent any solutions integrators?
Well, I think I find, forgot the name of them, but the HashiCorp approved.
The validated design.
Validated designs, yeah. Yes. I like that. I think it's great when you're starting to use something. It's good to have good to know the best practices, the anti-patterns, mm-hmm. especially anti-patterns, because best practice to anti-pattern is a one-way street.
Right.
So it's good to know them so we actually don't run into them. Mm-hmm. I think you also have a local community of people who can actually support, provide that support.
Correct.
So that's something we haven't started utilizing yet, but that's something that we're going to maybe look into as well. Mm-hmm. Like I say, it's not just software, it's also the entire package that comes with the software. It's being able to interact with those brains that contribute to building that software.
The relationships and the ability to then kind of embed some of the technology within the ecosystem. Yes,
and we work with many different software vendors. And getting up and running in our ecosystem is never simple. It's not like you double click, you install, and you're done.
No, I laugh, but I've had similar experiences in other organizations where just getting out the door is sometimes the hardest part, and making sure that people start using that for adoption. Yep. So how have you managed some of that adoption and making sure that people are adopting?
So one lesson I think that I've learned is, just to use an example, when I first came here onto the stage, mm-hmm. My talk had been on the agenda for a while. It was published. People knew I was coming. I was carrying this green speaker badge. Mm-hmm. So even before I came here and opened my mouth to say a single word, there was a sort of trust in that I'm going to say things that people want to hear. Right? Mm-hmm. There was a connection. Yeah. Whereas if I just walked off the street unannounced and just grabbed the mic and said, "Hey, let me tell you about cloud," yeah, I think the audience would be less receptive. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we found out. I think in my 10 years, I've seen many different projects. Some of them succeed, some of them fail, some of them succeed after several iterations. Mm-hmm. And if you're not building that connection with your user base, I can give you some examples. We during the pandemic, obviously cost cutting had become a really big thing.
You guys must have been hit really hard with the pandemic.
Well, kind of.
Lack of travel.
Nobody was traveling.
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, where can we find optimization opportunities? And we developed some feature about like power usage within our bare metal infrastructure. So we gave people the options to actually move to more like power efficient modes, and nobody used them.
Interesting.
Because we didn't build that connection. So that's I think the most valuable lesson. It also applies to like inner team dynamics. It applies to that creative tension that I refer to between platform teams and application development teams. Whenever we decided to throw goodness at people weren't receptive.
Okay, so when were they receptive?
When you are like clearly articulating the value of what you're trying to do for them, we understand their needs and really show the value that with this goodness that you're bringing to their lives, they can actually innovate faster.
Yep.
Yes, there's going to be a bit of investment in the beginning, maybe to change your ways of working, learn new ways of working, maybe re-platform. But ultimately, one of the things that shocked me when I joined Booking as a developer was I was working in I think it was the access control tooling team. It was around this time of the year. Somebody from the data centers team came to me and asked me, how many servers do you need next year? I said, well, I don't know. I never had to answer that question. And they said, well, you have 8 now. How many do you need next year? I said, well, 12. I don't know. Why am I answering this question? I should just write code, and that code should run somewhere. I don't care. So I think if we make that connection up front and articulate the value of the goodness that we're hopefully not throwing at them, but building with them, then I think we've seen better adoption.
Yeah, that why is always so critical, so that people understand what they're trying to achieve and the reasons behind it.
Yeah, well, another example, maybe a good example this time. Our Kubernetes platform started as a hackathon project about 8-9 years ago, and without any drive for adoption. Like we never had an adoption push for it. Today, I think close to 4,000 services run on it.
Okay.
Many of them critical.
That's a pretty successful hackathon project, right?
Yes.
There. Yeah.
I would say so.
I guess they sort of created that need themselves as a result of the hackathon.
Well, it also came as a result of the developer community saying we need this.
Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant. I love it. All right. So we have a couple minutes left. If you were to kind of give the crowd here your lessons learned, what are the biggest lessons learned that you've had?
Well, I think I just ruined that question when I answered your previous question, because I already told you my biggest lesson. I think it's all about connections before content. I think that's the name of the lesson that I learned.
Yeah.
You could say all the right things at somebody who's not listening to you, and it's pointless. Like I was talking to Prince before this session.
Were you not listening, Prince?
I wanted to refer to a meeting that I had about last year, and today is actually the anniversary of that meeting, funny enough.
Oh, nice.
We were 12 people in a room, like 12, I would say, smart, wise, reasonable people saying smart, wise, reasonable things at the top of their voices to each other, and none of them listening to any of the other 11.
Okay. So a very successful meeting.
I think so, because it established a baseline. It showed me the problems.
Okay.
And I know it's going to sound a bit soft and squishy. I have a background in software engineering. I like the real technical stuff, but it was quite clear that in order to even get to that point where we're answering technical questions, we have to build trust within teams. We have to build those connections, get people listening to each other first, so that when those smart, reasonable things get said, people are receptive to them. And I think that goes with any cloud adoption or any sort of adoption.
I think you're absolutely spot on. Well, Tigin, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for coming all the way from Amsterdam to join us here. It feels a little bit strange to be sitting with you in Boston, but I'm thrilled that you could be here with us.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.